Happy to be on the program tonight. We hope you're being blessed and strengthened in the things of the Lord. We're going to address the question tonight and ask the question, is America at this present time under attack by foreign powers? We're going to look at a parable that Jesus laid out for us in the book of Matthew chapter 13. It is the parable of the sower. The parable goes this way. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field, good seed. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat, and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares, or the weeds also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst thou not sow good seed in thy field? From whence then it hath these tares? He said unto them, an enemy hath done this. This is the parable that the Lord laid out for us, that they sowed seed, and they sowed good seed. But while men slept, the enemy attacked, sowing the tares, the destructive things, the weeds that comes up amongst the living things, and suffocates it and chokes it and kills it. This man sowed good seed. But it said, while we slept, while men slept, the enemy came and sowed these weeds. Now, Jesus went on to describe for us what the parable meant, and he broke it down this way. In Matthew 13:37, he says, and he answered and said unto them, he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man, that would be Jesus. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares, or the weeds, are the children of the wicked one, that's the devil, the enemy that sowed them, Jesus said, is the devil. So the Lord is telling us a parable here that relates to humanity. He's saying that the world is filled with what is the seed of God. And it is also filled with what is called the seed of the devil. In this parable, we see the very foundation of the Bible, of creation, the book of Genesis. We see that the Father created a paradise, created a wonderful world with nothing but good things in it. Man was then told, pretty much, to stay awake, to stay alert, to watch, and to stop the enemy from entering into his garden, his world, his home, his family, so that he could not sow these weeds among us. The weeds representing the seed, or the children, Jesus said, of the wicked one. The one that sows those weeds, those wicked ones, he said, is the devil. Now, if we could go back to a clearer time, where we still had the common sense to know the difference between wheat and weed. There is no racial language in classifying parts of humanity as wheat and parts of humanity as weeds, for there is nothing racist or racial even in the picture. There, without question, in this world today, there is the seed of God. That seed of God can be found among white people, among black people, among red people, among yellow people. There is the seed of God from all nations, from all people. It is simply to say this: in every race of mankind, there are good people. Likewise, in every race of mankind, there are wicked people. It is when our senses are destroyed, it is when we are literally programmed, it is when the evil one, Jesus said the devil, sows these viruses into the computer of which we call our brains. and allows these demonic seed to reprogram the computer that we call our brain, to where now we allow the wicked to tell us that we can no longer say what is wicked. To have the wicked now teach us and program us through their televisions and radios and politics that there are no weeds among humanity. We lose our discernment. We lose our spiritual gifts when we will no longer call a weed a weed. The Bible tells us clearly, and Jesus likening this parable to humanity. Some is of God and some is of that wicked, evil one. As we've talked in other times, cities such as Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, San Francisco, wherever they're planted, they absolutely destroy it. They're not tomatoes. They're not grapes. They're not fruits and vegetables that grow that require you to take care of them. Things has to be done to create an atmosphere for them to grow in. A weed needs nothing, needs no care, nothing. It just grows and it kills. That's how come we have to raise mother and father. That is why we have to raise our children, understanding this, that if they're going to be the fruits, the vegetables, the good of society, there has to be care taken. We need to do some field plowing before we even bring them into the world. We need to make sure we got a house for them to live in, a decent neighborhood for them to grow up in, a decent school for them to go to school in. Before we even bring them into the world, God created man's house before He put him in it. We have to nurture and care. We have to toil the ground. We have to plant the seed. We have to do it properly and raise it. Others, they just produce children for nothing but an extra check, more welfare, caring not that they're going to produce a child or not, in what environment, it does not matter. And then when they get here, they just let them grow and go. There's no care taken, there's nothing. Because they are weeds, and they are let go and grow among weeds and like weeds. They become destructive souls, tempted and led by what Jesus just said was the devil. To toss away, to throw away our gifts that God gave us is a fool indeed. For we only guarantee the destruction of ourselves and all of our fields. So now the question needs to be asked, is America presently under attack from foreign powers? I think that the answer is quite clear. So let's look at it. Point number one is this. Who is it that is causing all this violence in the United States? Question number two. Why isn't it being stopped? People are being run out of restaurants, being attacked, having their food taken from off of their tables, people getting in their faces, people taking their cell phones and busting them in the streets and running them down the highway, none of which are even arrested by the police. Who are these people that's sowing this violence? Who are the ones behind the sowing of the violence? Who is it that is really loose in our streets? Well, one of the names is Antifa, obviously a communist organization. The other is a group springing off of Antifa that calls itself Black Lives Matters. But Black Lives Matter, like Antifa, are self-professed communists. Now again, this is something that we have talked about in times past, but I'm just trying to lay it out so that the simplest among us be able to understand it. We have already heard the leaders, the founders of Black Lives Matter tell us that they are raised, trained Marxist. A Marxist is communist. And we have none other than the leader, founder of Black Lives Matter telling the world, we are Marxist, we are communist.
I think that the criticism is helpful. I also think that it might, I think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are trained Marxists. We are trained Marxists.
So there is no question now that Black Lives Matters is not a civil rights body or organization. By the founder's own mouth, Black Lives Matter are the weeds of communism. Black Lives Matters has only stuck the name black on their label of communist because they know the soul-stealing advantage that they gain by associating their works of evil with blacks. If you put black on the label, then anyone who tries to stop you are racist. If you put black on the label, then all of the civil rights groups will be behind you. If you put black on the label, 90% of the government is going to protect you. If you put black on the label, almost 100% of the media is going to plead your case. So, for soul-stealing purposes, this communist organization has stuck black on their name. They're doing nothing for blacks in America. That's why so many blacks are now turning against Black Lives Matters.
I'm so tired of watching television and all this crap about cops are bad and cops are hunting black people. It's like, come on, man. Get real. Quit listening to these so-called black leaders. They're going to send you down a road of ruin. Trust me.
Since you talk about division, what do you think about Black Lives Matter in particular?
Black Lives Matter is actually pretty ridiculous.
I would take Black Lives Matter way more serious if they really believed that Black Lives Matter. Black people are black people's biggest threat, not cops and not white people. So when black on black crime stops, when Black Lives Matter actually make me believe that they believe that black lives really matter, then I'll support it.
So all the violence that we're seeing take place in the streets right now is from a self-professed communist organization. We know that the money that's coming in to support it and back it, we know that one of them is George Soros, a communist. We know that Russia is behind it and financing it. We know that China is behind it and financing it. These people who has went to Wisconsin were the same people that was in other parts, in Portland and other places, flying first class on airplanes. Getting to Wisconsin, these Black Lives Matters protesters, and staying in rooms, motel rooms, for $500 to $1,000 a night. Where would they get such money? How could they be so rich? How is it that all the signs they need are provided? All the bricks are delivered to them that they throw. All the baseball bats of which they beat people with is delivered to them in vans. Who's organizing it? What is it? It's burning down churches. There is no civil rights black activist group on the face of this earth. that would burn down a church. Blacks are among the most spiritual people in the nation. Never has there been a black organization burning down churches. They go into their cities, the cities that are run by black mayors, cities that are run by black chief of police, where the majority of the police are blacks. They go into their cities, this communist group, and they burn down the businesses inside their own city. They burn down white-owned businesses. They burn down black-owned businesses. How in the world would a Black Lives Matters, how would a civil rights black organization at will burn down black people's business? Well, you know as well as I, it couldn't be done, it wouldn't be done, and it's not being done by civil rights people who's only active because of the welfare of their people. No. Black is only a label stuck on this communist organization, self-proclaimed communist organization, that is internally sowing division and physically attacking and tearing down our cities. These people claim that they are haters of these multi-million-dollar corporations. Why then is it they're not burning down the multi-million-dollar corporations? Why are they not going to the headquarters of these enormously wealthy places? Why are they not going to the mansions of Hollywood? Why are they not going to the multi-million-dollar businesses and burning them down? Why is it that they are going into the cities, burning down middle-class businesses of both whites, blacks, and every other race? Why would they attack the middle class when they say they hate the wealthy and the rich? But somebody's giving them money to stay in $500 and $1,000 a night motel rooms as they protest. Who do you think is doing that? Poor people? No, it is the wealthy that is providing them with what they need to do what they are doing, and they are going into the cities and tearing down and destroying the middle class. Well, since it has already been proven that this is a communist organization from their own mouth, then the answer becomes quite clear as to why it is middle-class businesses that's being destroyed and the middle class that's being put out of business, and not the elites and the filthy rich that they claim they hate. It is because, you see, communism hates and despises the middle class. If you will simply do some reading in the Communist Manifesto, from the quotes of Karl Marx, from the quotes of all of the Russian leaders, communist leaders around the world, the group that has to go is the middle class. They hate the middle class. All of their operations and all of their works are to destroy the middle class in order to take a country over with communism. You say, why is it the middle class that they hate? Well, you see, the middle class is a buffer zone between the super wealthy and the super poor. The super poor cannot ever hope nor dream to reach that multi-million-dollar mansion. But if there is a middle class there, then the poor can have hopes and dreams of reaching it. And from there, they can dream then of going higher. So it is a buffer zone. What the communist has to do is sow class warfare. That is the weeds, that is the tares of which they, the devil, sows. They want class warfare. This bunch against that bunch against this bunch, the rich against the poor, and the poor must be motivated finally in its poverty to take up its guns, to take up its weapons, to take its torches, and burn cities down until the change is made. But you see, it is the rich up top financing the poor down bottom to destroy the middle class. One of the quotes from one of the leading Marxists of the world was that the middle class has to be destroyed because they cannot be used. You cannot motivate them, the communists say, to activate, because the middle class is too comfortable. The middle class don't want to burn down its buildings. It's not interested in going out and protesting, not interested in going out and fighting, because they have found a level of comfort, and it is live and let live. Well, you can't have that kind of mentality when you're sowing the tares of communism into a country, when you're sowing the weeds of communism into a country. You can't have that mentality. You can't have that buffer zone. You can't have that place that is, well, separating the poor from the super rich, giving the poor a dream that is reachable. So you have to destroy the middle class. That is what they have always done. It is in their Communist Manifesto. America is right now being attacked by communism, our world enemy. And it is being orchestrated from abroad, and this is internal war on the United States of America. Now, something that is very interesting. The Communist Manifesto reads this: finally, in times when the class struggle nears the decisive hour, the process of dissolution, destroying, going on within the ruling class, in fact, within the whole range of the old society, assumes such a violent, glaring character that a small section of the ruling class cuts itself adrift and joins the revolutionary class, the class that holds the future in its hands. Do you hear what they said? They said that once the cards are all on the table, once the move is about to be made, that is, to take a country over, to enforce communism, to force it upon a society, it tells us that a point comes when at least part of the ruling class of that old system of America, of any system they attack, part of the ruling class cuts itself adrift and partners with the revolutionaries to bring about the final destruction. We have seen the Democratic Party do exactly that. You've heard no condemnation whatsoever of these people burning these businesses. Portland, all of the other places where all of this stuff's taken, they don't even arrest them, and they're all liberals. They're all run by Democrats. Even Chris Cuomo, who is involved in the conspiracy is clearly established. You have the Democratic Party of the United States government in conspiracy with 98% of the media. They are supporting the communist. They are backing the communist. They have, as the Communist Manifesto states, cut themselves adrift and now has linked themselves to the revolutionaries. What more could you say? They've not condemned it, they've praised it. Pelosi, she wants violence.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
Chris Cuomo, one of the leaders at CNN, a company that conspires with the Democrats, says this about the violent riots.
And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
The Constitution itself says it. The First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting any establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble. Nowhere do you have the right, Mr. Cuomo, to burn buildings and businesses down, to beat people with bricks and bats. But what you have here is a clear conspiracy. The Democratic Party are communist. 98% of the media, news organizations are in the conspiracy with them. They are communist. They are doing exactly what the Communist Manifesto clearly stated, that at the point of the final decision being made to conquer the city, to conquer the state, to conquer the nation, they cut themselves adrift and they join hands with the revolutionaries. And that is exactly what we are seeing. America is under attack by communism. Our country is at war.
Things were simple and good back then. Neighbors helped neighbors and friends were friends. The Bible was a book we all believed in. Gas was cheap back then. The 5 and dime, they sold things cheap. Mama stayed at home and helped us children be. Boys and girls you'd be glad to see. Back when things were good. Back when things were good. For the world came undone. Before the evil one's ways we learned. For the Bible and the flag got burned. Back when things were good. When a man's word was still good as gold. For he went astray and lost his soul. Back when things were good. Right was right and wrong was wrong. A woman's love was pure and a man's back was strong. We pulled together, that's what made us strong. Back when things were good. Back when things were good. Before the world